Hi everyone, this is Blake Anderson and I'm a videographer here in Toronto, Ontario. In this video, I'm going to be highlighting using Dehancer Pro, using their noise function. You can buy it as a separate plugin in terms of using it in your NLE or in your photo editing program. In this video, I'm going to be using the full suite in terms of Dehancer Pro. Originally, they did offer me a 3-year membership to use their plugin. This video was in part due to that, but in this video, I'm just going to be giving some of my honest feedback in terms of using the noise, in terms of Dehancer Pro's noise, and why I think it's superior compared to other programs out there, including what might be included already in the NLE, so using DaVinci Resolve's noise or Final Cut Pro's noise. Generally, you want to add noise just to add a bit of texture to your image. Usually it's the finishing stage of the video, so it helps tie it all in together. And Dehancer Pro uses authentic noise, and I'll be walking through a little bit about the details of what they use in terms of how it's applied in post-production, and then just how they actually go about creating this noise. But yeah, I'll be walking through the different aspects of how to use noise in your post-production. I'll be talking about some of the presets they have. They have different stages of using noise, but also have the ability for you to customize the highlights, the shadows, and different aspects of the noise. I will also be touching on bloom and halation. Those features are a great addition to your footage. After you do a base edit, you can add halation, blooming, and noise to really finish off the project, and it will give your video a unique look. And these features you want to usually use more subtly. And unfortunately, because of the compression within Instagram or even YouTube, noise doesn't always show up crisp or as accurate as you would hope. In this video, I'm going to walk through how to use Dehancer Pro noise. If you are interested in picking up this product, you can download it on their website, and you can use the code Blake Anderson Videography and that would give you 10% off on using Dehancer Pro noise and their whole full suite if you like. So that's Blake Anderson Videography, all one word. And if you use that at checkout, you get 10% off. So I'm in Dehancer Pro in Final Cut Pro. And as you see here in the effects, is basically what it is, just dropped it onto the clip at the clip level. You could also do adjustment layers. So I've created these adjustment layers where you could put Dehancer Pro on that. But here I just want to show you how, because I didn't convert this from S-Log to Rec 709, what I'm going to do here is just choose my camera and select Sony, and then it's Sony a7 IV. In this video, I want to not use any of the film settings, so I'm not going to enable any film. Simply focus on the bloom, halation, and primarily the noise. You can see there's film grain and all these options. The higher the ISO, the higher the amount of grain. You can pick between all these different types of film settings. If you're shooting to emulate a 16mm, you can select these different options. And also customize. And then when you go into customize, it's going to give you all these different types of options. So the size of the grain, the amount, film resolution, and then you can also go into shadows, midtones, highlights, as well as chroma. So here I can increase the size and then the amount. And if you see here, I'll just zoom in even more. So that's where you start to see the film, and then maybe the midtones will up it a bit. And the highlights. And then what I'm also going to do is going to add some halation. So if I click bloom and halation, and if you zoom in here, you're going to notice in the red. So it's very subtle. You can see here this red that's coming off the sign is that you can see a bit of halation in that, right? So this is without halation and with. And if I wanted to customize it and just dial it back, it also allows you to get even more refined with what you're looking for. And in terms of blooming, this is without, and this is with. So you can see some of the blooming and the highlights here. You can also go into customize and up the different aspects. And so that's one example with this model. Go into selecting a camera, choose camera. It's going to be Sony, and then a Sony a7 IV. And this has already got a film profile, but I'm going to turn that off. I might keep it for now because it does look nice. And I'm going to turn off expand and focus on the grains. You have the options to do different types. For this one, I might really overdo it with that type of grain. And in terms of the halation, you're going to see that in this. So the blooming. So you can see that blooming, and it's like this makes the skin tone softer as well. You can go into customize and you customize it. And yeah, that's just a really good job of adding more film noise to your project and giving that old effect. You can also, as you can see here, when you export, you can select how much output you want. And I believe there's a way to change the quality. So let me look here. But yeah, that's just me walking through the different aspects of primarily using the grain and the ways that you can customize the halation as well as the blooming effect. And so you can see here that it's done a really nice job. And I've also added a film to it, but then you can add grain. And it's hard to pick it up on this computer. You can definitely tell. And if I was to customize this, I could increase the size and increase the amount. So yeah, this is me walking through using Dehancer Pro and Final Cut Pro, particularly with using grain, halation, and blooming. If you did this video, please subscribe. You can use the code Blake Anderson Videography, that's all one word, at checkout to get 10% off on this plugin. Thank you for watching and hope you have a great day. I just wanted to cover also how Dehancer actually works with noise and what makes this plugin unique in terms of how they replicate grain that you'll find in film. I'm going to talk about how they use their plugin to really get authentic film that's actually was filmed on actual grain. And you can select between negative and positive as well as different film stocks. I'm going to cover that. And also explain how you can get the best post image once it's uploaded in Instagram, YouTube, and Vimeo. I'll primarily be focusing on Instagram because for this project, the final delivery was for Instagram. So I'm going to talk just a bit through that in terms of how to think about the export so that you can retain as much as possible the grain you want the audience to see without getting that compression. It's not ideal for Instagram because it does tend to compress the noise. In terms of Dehancer, captures grain from real film scans, including 8mm, 16mm, 35mm, and 65mm stocks. And the scans cover various ISOs to also replicate authentic textures from emulsion like Kodak or Fuji. This approach avoids synthetic noise, providing raw film-like quality for videography projects. The plugin analyzes each frame, including the density and inner negative bleed effects within the actual video. So it enables per pixel adjustments that mimic real chemical processes in film development as well. This contrasts with other NLEs, which apply more generic textures without depth or authenticity. Grain dynamically adapts to motion blur or zooms, maintaining consistently across frames. It prevents just glitches or flattening seen in standard noise tools. And so it's very much adapts to the dynamic aspects of the scene. So it ensures a natural, evolving textures that enhance professional video workflows. It offers controls over grain size, amount, and type for customized application. Negative grain provides more punchier highlights. Positive grain delivers softer overall looks. It includes brand-specific profiles to match historic film stocks accurately. And so it's using a physics-based modeling, integrates seamlessly into post-production pipelines. It outperforms algorithmic plugins that often appear artificial or exaggerated. Results are superior, realistic, and they enhance the videography, I would say, final delivery in terms of the project, just to give you that authentic film emulation. In terms of exporting from Dehancer Pro, is you want to export at the highest bit rate. According to my research, it's 40 Mbps for YouTube and 50 for Vimeo. And higher bit rates combat compression that diminish texture details during uploads. You can obviously test exports to ensure grain intensity before and after in terms of the final platform of distribution. For Instagram, it's best to stick with 16 bit rates in terms of aligning with the quality for the compression that you're going to get from Instagram. This avoids over-amplifying grain in Dehancer as it appears chunkier in post-production. So that's why it's better from my research to stick with the lower grain sizes in terms of the 8 and the 16 millimeters. Apply subtle adjustments to maintain authenticity without visual artifacts. Also from my research, it suggests that adding a bit of light such as a 0.2 to soften grain edges against compression. That's particularly for Instagram, and this technique prevents textures without compressing the film's natural appearance. It's a balance subtly to prevent overprocessing in social media environments. So it's something you can consider just doing first applying Dehancer Pro and then adding a soft Gaussian blur, which is about 0.2%, just helps soften and allows it not to compress as much. But yeah, again, use smaller grains like 8 millimeters or 16 millimeters for Instagram to avoid smearing the larger ones. So if you did use 32 or 64, it's going to be just bigger in terms of the grain size, and that's not necessarily going to be helpful in terms of the final delivery for Instagram. You might have better results with Vimeo because it doesn't compress as much. Vimeo retains grain best due to superior handling of high quality uploads. YouTube follows with proper bitrate settings, and then Instagram, you'd expect some texture loss. Combine blur and mid-size grain to optimize survival across all platforms. In this video, I covered aspects of considering how they actually use the grain from actual film stock. With the Dehancer Pro, you can get that authentic look. And I also talked about exporting. Maybe one final pro tip is if you're, like in my case, I'm uploading, I had 4 videos in Final Cut Pro. I'll just open that up. And so I had these ones that were for story. So you can see here, they're for story format. And there are H.264 files. And from my research, if you export it into a ProRes high quality, that's going to retain a lot of the blooming and halation as well as the grain. And then using Adobe Encoder or Final Cut has, like on Apple, they have their compressor. Then you export into an H.264 file, but using those settings I mentioned, 40 and 50 as well as 16 for Instagram, to retain the best effects using Dehancer Pro in terms of the grain and the halation and blooming, ensuring you're getting the best upload for Instagram. Hopefully that was helpful to give you some suggestions and tips to think about how Dehancer applies grain and blooming and halation, and then also how you can consider uploads and to ensure retaining that grain.